Yo, 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 what's going on, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby. Representing Team Kings of Games. And yes, bro, I'm updating my Orcust. We finally get to enjoy. Well, I guess not necessarily. It's not technically legal, so to speak. But I do finally get to enjoy playtesting and practicing with these new cards that came out in Dark Neostorm. Oh my gosh, this deck is so stupid, bro. I mean, just wow, it's amazing. I am absolutely impressed. I mean, I knew this deck was good. Obviously, I played, and the list that I had, it kept changing, and it's never gonna be the same. It just keeps changing every other day. And like I knew it. I was like, dude, this deck is so good. It really is. It can play through so many negates. It could break pendulum boards. I was like doing this before the new support came out. I was breaking boards with 4 negations like Crusadia Guard Dragons and Danger Thunder. And now it's like, oh my god, we lost Summon Sorcerers, and the deck's stronger than when it was, when Summon Sorcerers was legal. That's pretty crazy, bro. That's really crazy. Okay, so I'm gonna be showcasing you guys my list. Really enjoy this deck a lot. It's very flexible. There are too many ways to play it. So with that said, it just kind of raises the ceiling of almost every deck that has room or space for you to basically, I guess you could say, integrate it into the deck. It's just really strong. There's so many one-card combos in this deck. It's ridiculously consistent. It's really good going first or second. It's not dice roll reliant. And with the loss of Azathoth, it just kind of gave it that extra deck space that I needed personally. I just think the deck is better with the new ban list being actually into effect, since the 29th. I really love this deck a lot, you guys. It's really strong. I have a couple unorthodox card choices, but, I'll always explain myself. And just keep in mind, I'm me, you're you. We're different people. We think different. Everybody has different mindsets. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's right, It's just play it how you want it. If it works for you, then it works. And this is what's been working for me very effectively. So let's hop into the list. We're starting off with 3 copies of Orcust Knightmare. I'm going to start with the Orcust monster first. 3 copies of Orcust Heartpore. 2 copies of Skeletor. And 1 copy of World Legacy World Wand. So I've kind of kept the count at 9. I've just rotated between the ratios in certain cards. Like there was one point in time where I was doing 2 of this, 2 of this, 2 of this, and then the Bombard in this. That was the only time I played 8. And then another time where I was playing, I had the World Wand in. I had the Brass Bombard in, and I was playing 1 Simple Skeleton. But I cut the Brass Bombard and put in the other Simple Skeleton because it does come up a lot. And what I was doing was I was relying on Galatea and all the other Orcus to recycle and shuffle it back. But just having another one in deck to special summon is really effective whenever you go into your grind games. Sometimes your Orcus can't resolve like their effects to shuffle because the targeting's cost, but shuffling's not. So if they negate it, you lose that chance you have to put back your engine. So you kind of need the second Simple because Simple is the best Orcus. Whenever you get past turn 1, it's the best one. It's the strongest one. You can revive Link 4s. With the new rank 8, oh my god. With the new rank 8, this card is nuts because you can just banish it, bring the rank 8 back from the graveyard, trigger its effect. What I normally do whenever I'm establishing or thinking ahead, even if there's a card that I can get rid of, what I typically do is I'll use Dingaritsu to get World Wand back from my banish zone. And then I'll basically, I'll link off with it, and the World Wand will fall off, and the World Wand will fetch another card from the banish zone, which kind of lets me extend more, and I can still clear threats, and I can break boards, and Longaritsu can be just as effective as Dingaritsu whenever you're just, if the monster you're trying to get rid of is, if the card you're trying to get rid of is a monster, Longaritsu can do exactly the same thing. He can send it to the grave without targeting or destroying. Same as Dingaritsu. Like these cards are just really strong, very impactful. All they do is just very simple. They special summon from a certain area, but that is very, very effective in this deck. Orcust Knightmare, I know it's crazy that I'm playing 3. Most of us play 2. They believe it's the break. Some people say they play 1, but if you draw 1, you need another targeting deck. I believe that the best way to play through hand traps is to open with Knightmare and Heartpore in your hand, plus one of your engages or your Neo Space Connector. That way you can play through 2 hand traps, no matter what they are, whether it's Ash, Ogre, Veiler, or Veiler, or Impermanence, or Ash, Veiler. Any combination of those, Droll doesn't hurt the deck. So any combination of those, including DD Crow, they can even use a DD Crow. You can play through both the hand traps and still do exactly what you were trying to do as if the hand traps didn't matter. So if you're just maximizing on these personally, just seeing them in my opening hand really helps me out a lot because now it's not so RNG where the dangers need to draw an extender that is necessary and vital to allow me to keep playing if I get hand trapped. But now I put the card in the grave that I was going to special from my deck off of the Nightmare Mermaid in the first place. And it kind of is like they'll ash it and you're like, all right, cool. I'll use this effect, get me a Harpour, and I can do my combo. I can use Summon Galatea and, you know, summon my Dengaritsu and then bring back the... It's just so good, man. It's really effective. And I also like the fact that Nightmare can't be destroyed by battle with a Link monster, because whenever you're playing the mirror match, they have to use Longaritsu or Dengaritsu to clear this card, which forces them to waste resources that they don't want to. And also at the same time, whenever you play against decks, like let's say for example Sky Strikers, they have to use like Afterburners or Widow Anchors. They can't just attack over it. So it's clutch. It does come up. Its protection is very relevant. And also keep in mind with the field spell that you can actually use Nightmare and Damage Step to send World Wand and boost any monster you have that's attacking by 800, which is actually really strong. So yeah, I like Nightmare. It's my favorite. That's it for the Orcust monsters. They're all really powerful for what they do. Very simplistic. They don't have secondary or third effects, you know. I mean, this card does, but like you mainly just, you'll only use the effect that matters for the deck's playstyle. But yeah, just the ability to special from different areas for the Orcust is just what makes them so good. They're crazy. They're all extenders in their own right, so to speak. They just allow you to do so much more than most decks can do with just one card. Speaking of, continuing. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the one card enablers of the deck. So I played 3 Neospace Connectors. This was an inspiration from my teammate who plays Dark Warriors. And he loves Dark Warriors. And he's like, bro, why don't you just play it? It's like, because he was like talking about the Trickstar engine. And I was like, I'm good on normal summons. I really like my Iblee normal summon. And I explained to him why I love Iblee, how it can play around so many different cards. And no matter what, even if they ash the Nightmare or the Harpour, I get a Galatea on field. And just having Galatea on field can really get you places. And he was like, play the Connector then. Connector is better than the Trickstar. It's a normal summon that can play around hand traps. It gives you information, and I like that. What's really awesome is when you open with Connector and a danger that gets to summon itself, you could 2-card hand loop your opponent and then do your combo. So you get to rip 2 cards. You just rip one off Dolphin. You link with the Dolphin and the Nightmare into... you link with the Dolphin and the danger into, you know, your Nightmare monster. Then you tribute Connector, bring Dolphin back, discard, rip another card out their hand, then you make Mermaid, and you do your combo, and your opponent got hand looped for 2, just like how a Danger Thunder Dragon player would do to you. And, of course, the Dolphin, yeah, of course it's cheesy in time as well. I just like that my deck doesn't just lose the time. It's really strong. Connector is just so powerful in its own right. But, dude, oh my gosh, the best normal summon of the deck has to be Iblee. I love Iblee, bro. I get so much hate for playing this card. So many people try to put me down and try to convince me for playing other cards. I don't know why people give that much energy and effort out of their own day just to try to convince me to play a different card. I love Iblee. She is so strong. I really need to summon Galatea. Like, if they ash my Harpour, that's fine. If they ash my Nightmare, that's fine. What's more important is just getting a Galatea on field. Galatea on field will get you places, I'm telling you. And you can still make Rusty Bardiche with the dangers, and you can still make rank 8 plays. You can still summon Dengaritsu the old-fashioned way. You can still make your rank 4s. Just establishing Galatea will give you a follow-up, and it can give you that pot of greed that you need. And she guarantees that Galatea hits the field because you chain block with her and the Nightmare Mermaid, so your opponent has to have a Veiler. But what's also really powerful, and this is why I feel like, just stop. Stop it. Like, stop speculating. Stop repeating words that you heard other people say, and just have your own opinion. Like, this card, oh my gosh, like, it plays around Pankratops, it plays around Evenly Match, it plays around Kaijus and Lava Golems, and if your opponent wants to Spear Mode you, now, not only have they ate up their normal summon, but they have to find a way to do something with the Iblee and then play. It makes it so awkward for them. And when you play against Pendulums and you give Pendulum Magicians and Iblee, you have no idea. That's really awkward for them. They have to have a generic link too to do something with it, or they have to tribute summon for like a Jackal King. So it just makes everything so awkward for them. I don't care about the Orcust mirror match or the Salmon Great mirror match. Like, oh, you give them a free monster. You either side it out in that mirror match, or you actually play smart. You be a good player, and you play around the fact that you gave them Iblee. You can pop it with Rusty Bardiche. You can send it from the field to the grave with the Orcust. It's not the end of the world. So, like, I don't like that people get so anal about the fact that I play Iblee. I love this card. I also love that its ability can just bring back a Link monster to where it points to it whenever you normal summon it. There are so many times where I've used this to just bring back a Nightmare Phoenix just to make Boar Just to make Boar It's such a strong card. It really is. And I guess you could say this is a Nightmare Orcust deck because it's a little bit more focused on Nightmares because you're trying to summon Orcust Nightmare. Iblee is another Nightmare card, and then we have a new card from Dark Neostorm that actually is really strong in this deck. It's very effective, and it has a strong cohesive property. It just bonds with this deck. It just melds with this deck. It's supposed to be played in this deck, in my opinion. I'm not really supposed to. I'd say, because I don't want to force you to do anything, I would say this card just seems like it was meant to be. For those of you who don't know what this does, because this is a new card, I'll read it to you. It's really strong. And shout outs to all the True King players out there, because we got cards that we can play in a True King deck now because of this set. But level 9 monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. You can only use each of these effects once per turn. So basically, if the link rating of the monsters on the field are 8 or more, this is a quick effect, special this card from your hand. That's one of the effects. If this card special summon while your opponent controls more link monsters than you do, send all link monsters on the field to the graveyard. So this really helps you out going second, and it gives you a higher ceiling in matchups that kind of like leave Skull Dreads and, you know, the Guard Dragons, leave the Heretic Link and all that. And you kind of you can summon this off of Nightmare Mermaid and trigger its effect if your opponent controls more link monsters than you do, and you send all their link monsters to the graveyard, which can be really strong against link decks. There are a lot of decks that actually do end their boards with link monsters up, especially Salamangreats, when they have that Sunlight Wolf and they have that Balinks. You just send them to the grave without destroying them, so you don't care about Balinks as a protection, which is also really cool. So whenever you're able to do it, especially when you can chain block, if you have Iblee is guaranteeing that Italy comes out, which means now they have to use Roar on Iblee. Otherwise, the Italy's going to send their links to the grave, so they can't resolve Roar. So it's just really strong. The fact that you kind of have this card that can break boards in your main deck that's accessible through every combo that makes the Orcust plays. It can make this because you can just make a Nightmare Mermaid and special this from your deck. This card is just so powerful in its own right. I'd need more of the support, but basically you can still make True King of all Calamities in this deck. I'll show you guys how when I actually get the cards to do so, but we're still going to be making Calamities. It still hasn't changed. The game plan is still going to be the same. And we have one Armageddon Knight. Dark Reference, probably my favorite of all the starter cards. In the terms of, I guess you could say, normal summon. Like, Iblee is amazing. I really do. And I love her. She really, I would say she is my favorite, but he's the most versatile. Because not only can he freely summon himself, he can load your grave. Literally, you open with him in, for example, a Nessie and a Nightmare. That's ultimate. You discard the Nessie for cost to special him. You know, search off Nessie. Then you discard the Orcust Nightmare for cost. And if they ash it, that's dumb. But if they don't, you send the Heart Pour. And then you basically reveal that danger if it's a Tsuchinoko. You make Nightmare Mermaid, and you basically trigger your Mermaid knowing that your opponent has to have multiple hand traps to stop you. So this card will always play through so many hand traps. It's crazy. And it just gives you free bodies on field, and it sets you up for so many different plays for your following turn. This deck has really, really powerful follow-ups, bro. Really, it does. And it's so good going second against, like, Danger Thunder Dragons is, like, the easiest matchup because you don't need 5 or 6 cards to beat that deck. Like, you can actually just beat them with 1 card. Like, you can bait out all their negates and beat them with just 1 card. Like, Armageddon Knight, for example. I still play just 2 Phantom Knights. I really do like the Phantom Knights. I'm a pure Phantom Knight player, so trust me. I know that they're good cards. But the space, man. It was the space. I wanted to play more Dangers. So the reason why I started playing more Dangers than I already was playing is because whenever you play the Pendulum match, Dangers are your best bet at playing through those negations. Because if your opponent doesn't negate the Dangers, you can have cards like Bigfoot and Thunderbird out on the field to allow you to just attack over the monsters that were threatening you. So that way you don't have to play into the negations. In main phase 2, you can do your combo, and you actually can just systematically clear their board using Longaritsu and Dingaritsu and Rusty Bardies, just clearing 3 cards. It's so insane. This deck is nuts. But for the Dangers, which is the part of the deck that you're going to cry and whine and complain about, unless you play Dangers. But people who don't play Dangers always complain about them. But we have 3 copies of Nessie, 3 copies of Tsuchinoko. We have 3 copies of Jackalope. I want it to look really presentable. So I'm going to keep the cards pretty organized. Oh, wow, I'm starting to lose my voice, but that's expected. I've been screaming at work all day, screaming on a walkie-talkie because we were in the lime garden today cleaning out a hole, and then we had to do a new path for a road, and we had to do an excavation, and wreck of form. It's just, yeah. Anyways, so 3 Jackalopes, 3 copies of Danger Chupacabra. I really do like Chupacabra a lot. I OTK people out of nowhere. They high-key sleep on the fact that it doesn't have to be in defense position like how Jackalope does. So I like Chupacabra a lot. I like that it's a level 4. I like that it already is a 15 body itself. Even when you miss a Chupacabra because you play so many dangers, it's not the end of the world. And then finally, Mothman. So these are all the dangers that you can miss with, and they'll still give you advantage on your turn. Now, next up, my favorite actual danger is Danger Bigfoot. He's my favorite one. I love him, especially going second, fighting floodgates. Bigfoot has never failed me, bro. Anytime I needed him, he was there. He was there. I hard draw this card like a beast. He's the danger I see the most, and also the danger that I discard off of his own effect the most, which actually is a good thing, but it's bad sometimes, but it's good whenever I go second. Because, like, I just get really lucky where I reveal this card, and I'm like, I need it to be discarded, and it gets discarded every time. Bigfoot's nuts, and so is Thunderbird. Like, Bigfoot's always going to play through multiple negations whenever you have multiple Bigfoots, because you can just force a negate, because you're going to target a card, and it's going to have to negate to protect itself. Then you can use Bigfoot to attack over the other negator, and you kind of just clear so many negations without actually committing to your combo yet. So that's it for the monsters. It's a ton of monsters. It really is. But that's kind of what the deck thrives off of. You swarm the field with monsters. You need to get 2 monsters with different names, and that is your win condition, essentially. Next up for our spells, we're playing 3 copies of Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. This card is a really strong Ash bait. What I wanted was a card that could potentially bait hand traps while simultaneously not relinquishing my normal summon, which is very imperative for me because my normal summons are my Crute Mons. They're the part of my arsenal that get the most work done before I get to the Orcust combo. The Orcust will finish everything for themselves, but the normal summons really get a lot of the work done. So whenever you have a normal summon, you really don't want it to get Ash Blossom. Like, for example, if it's Connector, you try to bait them out with the Engage. And if they let Engage resolve, you go full combo without normal summoning. Meaning that you can make your Phoenix, then you can normal Connector. And now because you've done that play, which I've done before where I made Phoenix, and now they're like, oh, I need to hold my hand trap for the Mermaid. You normal Connector because you haven't normal summon yet. And they're like, wow, I have no choice but to use my hand trap now. Otherwise, you're going to rip it out of my hand. And it works perfectly. Then you do your Orcust combo. So Engaged Neospace Connector is almost like a guaranteed combo. It's really good. And the same thing with like Dark Refer and Iblee or Dark Refer and Neospace Connector. They're just so solid. 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Oh, yeah, and this also is protection for your combo because I started playing Eagle Booster to protect my Mermaid. Because I kind of started focusing more on the Nightmare monsters than anything like Iblee. Sometimes I just need to summon Iblee whenever I'm playing Sky Strikers, like games 2 and 3. I'll purposely give an Iblee to them on their field in the middle of my combo so that now they have to have multi-roll, and whenever they activate it, I can just send it to the grave off of my Dingaritsu. And if anything else happens, I can still negate with my counter trap and kind of just force them to be in that awkward position where now they can't Kaiju and they can't Pancratops. So, yeah, I like Iblee a lot. I just like the Nightmares. So, yeah, it's just really, really important trying to protect your Nightmare Mermaid. So, that's why Engage, again, is just so powerful in this deck. And then 3 Allures just for filtering your hands. Draw 2 whenever you're side decking, your higher chances of seeing your side deck cards. And then Rhoda and Foolish being the God tier 1-ofs in this deck. And then I played 1 Hornet Drones and 1 Eagle Booster. Eagle Booster used to be Widow Anchor, but I wanted a card that can solidify my combo. I don't want to play Called by the Grave because it's just really awkward in the 60-card deck. I decided to play cards that were not only combo pieces, but have protection from hand traps. Like Connector is a combo piece, but it protects you from hand traps. Greffer and, Iblee are combo pieces that protect you from hand traps. Engage is a combo piece that protects you from hand traps. So if I haven't proved my point already, I think I've validated the reason why I choose cards like these over Called By. Not to say that you can't play all of these and Called By, just so that you just won't really be ever losing to hand traps. But I just think it's enough. And then we have 1 copy of Babel. And don't get me wrong, this deck by itself without the protection of Connector and, Eagle Booster and cards like that, it can already play through interruptions by itself. Orcust players know this. You just got to play your cards right, bro. The first thing you do is not activate Mermaid. You don't do that ever. That's the last thing you want to do. But anyways, for the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, the Holy Ghost, and moving forward, because now you have to remember that Jesus has children. There's triplets. I'm playing 3 copies of Orcust Crescendo. Oh my gosh. And you guys have to play this. Einsatz is so busted, dude. Seriously, this card is not fair at all. This card and the field spell are the best setup you can have. you can just, your deck kind of plays itself at that point because your opponent is just going to always summon a monster and you're just going to get to foolish. So 3 stacks. Why are you playing 3 Orcust Crescendo? It's hard once per turn on both effects. It's a brick if you draw it in your hand. Yada, 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 rough. Again, remember, I like cards that are combo pieces that let me play through hand traps. So what people need to realize about Crescendo is it has a graveyard effect that can be used the same turn it's sent. Now, that's not relevant because you never want to do that because you restrict yourself to only summoning Dark Machines. And what that means is you realistically can't activate it if you've used Dangers or Connectors or anything like that. What you can do, though, you can resolve this whenever you normal summon Armageddon Knight, which is a fun fact. If you normal summon, because it says right here, you cannot special summon monsters a turn except Dark Machine. So if you normal Armageddon Knight and send, for example, Heart Pourer and make your Galatea, you can actually resolve this. But its graveyard effect is a follow-up. So I like opening with this in hand because whenever I'm discarding it off the Dangers or the Nightmare Mermaid play, basically, I give myself a follow-up in the sense that even if they hand trap me and stop me, I'll just basically use the Galatea. I'll use Galatea to basically get me either the field spell or the Einsatz. I don't normally go for the turn right away because I'll still make Rusty. And this card Engrave will give me a follow-up on my opponent's turn because I can banish it and search for any of the combo pieces I need to make sure that I have a follow-up play for the next turn. And also, hard drawing it just makes life so much easier because now you have that negation and now you can use Galatea because it's correct to go for the field spell every time. The field spell is the most important card. So whenever you go for the field spell, you kind of lose out on getting that counter trap for that turn, but you can set it on your opponent's turn and use it for the next turn. But whenever you go for the counter trap outright, you kind of lose the potency of all the Orcust Link monsters and the plays that you can make because you can't use the field spell to make them quick effects. And you've sacrificed that versatility for one negation, which is not really impactful. So I really like playing it at 3 because its graveyard effect, again, lets me play through so many hand traps. And it guarantees that if my opponent can't deal with me, I will be able to play next turn. Again, follow-ups is really important. You never want to run out of these either because these are nuts. It just negates anything and banishes it while you control an Orcust Link monster, need I mind you. So while people think this is a brick in your hand, I've never drawn a hand that couldn't make Galatea. I've never, ever, since I've been playing this deck, I've never drawn a hand where I couldn't make Galatea. So this is always live. It's never dead. It's always live. So you draw it for turn. You just do a free negate. Galatea cannot get you your field spell, and you're going to be able to set another one for the follow-up. And continue with the traps. I play 2 Fog Blades and 1 Shade Brigandine. The purpose for Shade Brigandine, instead of just triple Fog Blade, is because I still like making Time Thief Redoer with the trap so that I can clear threats without targeting or destroying. And I like I like the grind game capabilities of Time Thief Redoer himself. He's a really powerful card. So yeah, if I wasn't playing Redoer, I wouldn't play the Phantom Knight trap, the Shade Brigandine. For the side deck, we have 3 Phantasmes. It's so good, this format. It really is. Who cares that there are stun decks out there? There are far more decks that are actually link summoning than there are just stun decks in general. So this card is definitely worth side decking. The protection, I don't even care about. I just care that it puts itself on the field and lets me draw cards. Because now that's that's 1/2 step towards my combo, which is getting 2 monsters on the field with different names. So going second, it's more combo pieces. And of course, it protects your mermaid from Valor and Impermanence and Widow Anchor and stuff like that. It can potentially. 3 Spear Modes, 3 Lava Golems. You actually don't really need a normal summon to do your combo because you play the Dangers. And whenever you open an Orcust and you discard off a Danger, you can just do your whole combo without normal summoning. So these cards sacrificing your normal summon, it doesn't matter. You can still kill them. And I played 2 Dinko, 2 Twin, and 2 Reboot for my back row hate. I felt that 6 cards for the back row decks, the control decks, and 6 cards for the combo decks was really effective. And then these 3 are kind of the glue that meshes them together. Will melt them together because Sky Strikers and Sun Migrates are control decks that rely more on back row and hand traps than anything. And you can always resolve Phantasma against them because kind of part of their playstyle is to summon Link monsters. And for the combo decks, especially Thunder Guard Dragons, there's a point in their combo where they're going to have 2 to 3 Link monsters. So this card's just always good in that matchup. It's really strong against Pendulums because they're always going to summon Electrum every time. And it's really good against this deck because this deck Link summons like nobody's business. So it's not really bad unless you're playing a stun deck. But at the same time, if you're playing a stun deck, it's not that hard. You're playing Orcust. The extra deck went through a lot of modifications, bro. This is where I'm going to get all hyped all over again because the extra deck is really different this time. It has some cards that I never was able to play. Thank you, Dark Neostorm. 2, Galatea, the Orcust Automaton. This card is incredible. It's the lifeblood of the deck. She actually keeps you in the loop, bro. She's really just the most imperative of all of them. She's a negation by herself. This card can put out negations. She gets your field spells. She can let you draw 2. She can let you set up your follow-ups for next turn and the turn after that and the turn after that. This card is just the best link monster that you can make in the deck. Followed up with the second best link monster, we play 2 Nightmare Mermaids, because now you're actually trying to resolve Mermaid more than once. A duel, you can resolve 1 on your turn, and you can summon Orcust Nightmare on your opponent's turn because Hard Pour can be a quick effect. Then on your turn, you can literally link that into a Mermaid, and then you can special summon out your Iblee whenever you need to break a board. If you're just grinding and you're trying to wall up and stall, you can just make it Mermaid on your turn and summon out Iblee, and you just, bam, clean their clocks right there. So it's really strong. I like 2. And I like that it's like an extender too, because whenever you can turn an Orcust Nightmare into this, and then just, for example, summon another Orcust Nightmare, you've got an extra body on the field for free. And then the Kogari, it doesn't matter that's that one. We play 1. And then we have Phoenix. Longaritsu or Custrion are so overpowered in this deck. They are the... Okay, let me go ahead and just drop this card too, because it's an Orcust. And these cards just... The abilities that these have as spell speed 2s on your opponent's turn are so powerful and just extremely disruptive for what they're worth. Even against control decks like Solid Greats and Strikers, these cards are just so powerful. They really don't have matchups where they're bad. This card especially, it just can send anything. I feel like this card is so powerful because it fixes that problem that you have where you're like, I have so many resources trapped in my banish zone. And while Galatea and Longaritsu and Orcustrion can put them back into your deck, what are you going to end up needing to do? Get them back into the grave. This card takes cards from your banish zone and attaches them, and they're going to go to the grave whenever you want to, because he could just protect your cards. He could protect your field from being destroyed by battle card effect by detaching that card. And of course, he just sends cards on the field to the grave. This card is just so powerful, you guys. It really is. It's so amazing. This card just broke this deck. It was already broken, but this card broke this deck. And I only play 1 because you only need 1, and you can only special summon it once per turn. You're never going to be able to summon 2 because it has that restriction. If they DD Crow it, guess what? You just shuffle it back with your links. If they call by the grave it, guess what? You shuffle it back with your links, and you make it on the turn that you're able to use this effect again. It's just so powerful. And then Longaritsu and Orcustra on themselves too. So Longaritsu can just send a linked monster on the field to the grave. How does a monster become linked? If an arrow points to it, or it has an arrow and it points to something else. That's pretty easy because all of your Orcust linked monsters have arrows that point up. So it's really cool whenever you're making your boards with your combos. Longaritsu and also Galatea have arrows that will always point up. If you set it up right, they'll always point to your opponent's extra monster zone, which means anything they summon there will automatically become linked to these, and anything that gets summoned under it becomes linked to it. So you have this really cool chain setup where anytime you want, you can disrupt them by touching the monster that is in their extra monster zone or the monsters that are under it in its own zones. So you could actually just, if they, for example, let's say they summon Electromite, and then they summon, like, for example, they Pendulum summon into his zones, like Jackal King and Harmonizing. Not Jackal King Harmonizing. Like, they summon, like, Jackal King and Endymion. Well, you can use Orcustrion to negate all their effects and make their attack and defense 0. And this negation is permanent so long as those monsters are linked, which is really powerful and really aggressive. And you can use it in damage step. If this card's linked, can be destroyed by battle card effects, can be destroyed by card effects, can be destroyed by battle. They have such amazing effects, and they protect themselves. And then Rusty, who cares that we can't make Azathoth? Or Custrion kind of like is in Azathoth in his own right, just not as, you know, powerful and as degenerate. But now Rusty's more important just because you're always resummoning Dingaritsu so much, and you just get the double pop off of you know, the pop off him and send one off of Dingaritsu. It's how you kind of just keep cracking boards systematically, card for card, just exchanging one card for their card. It's so powerful, and bringing it back off Fogblade, so you just keep grinding it out. It's such a strong link. And then this card is nuts. So you can break Pendulum boards with this card. Like, oh my gosh, this card is insane. Like, you play Dangers and Orcust in this deck. You have so many level 5 or higher monsters with different types. It's crazy. You just make this card, like, especially when you're going second. Let's say your opponent has the ultimate established Pendulum board, and you're like, okay, we just have to play through the Spear. the seal, and we have to kill the Amorphage that it summons. After that, we can spam the board with dangers, link into this, and what's going to happen the second you make this, they can't touch it. It's unaffected by monster effects. And guess what? Pendulum summon a board full of negations in the form of monsters. They're not playing Zephyrs. They don't play Time Pendulum Graph because they don't think those cards are good. But basically, you're going to activate his effect to destroy all other cards on the field. And your opponent can try to negate this, but it's unaffected. So their negation won't resolve to harm this card. So basically, this is a guaranteed shot at cracking the Pendulum board and clearing not only their monsters, but their scales, which means they're back to square one, and they're going to need 2 complete scales and then a way to try to Pendulum summon and get over this without using monster effects. This card's nuts. And also, because I play Zephyrs, I can make it in there because I have so many level 5 or higher monsters. So this card's just a godsend. It's so powerful. It really is. It has another effect, but I don't play the targets for it. And then Trishbania and Bomber. Whenever you play Pendulums, these are other great options. Just Raigeki in them can really do them over. Whenever they Pendulum summon, and you can just Raigeki their entire field. Or just Trishbania, their scales. You know, it just depends. But both of these are really strong against Pendulums. Really strong against Strikers and Sound Migrates and Stun decks in general. Whenever you get to go first and set up Trishbania, like the Field Spell deck, the Mystic Mind, whatever I call it, the Weenie Hut Jr. deck, you go first and you just blow them out with this card. Like, it's so good. The Topologics are just nuts, you guys. Seriously, this deck can make cards that a lot of decks can't make, and it can use their effects to the best of their abilities. And then we have Borosword and Time Thief Redoer. The XYZs used to be Zombie Stein and Redoer, but I cut Zombie Stein for this. And Zombie Stein couldn't make the cut, but I just felt like this card is just better than Zombie Stein. It really is. And that's my deck profile, you guys. Thank you so much for watching it. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You folks have a beautiful day, all right? And I love Orcust so much. Peace, bro.